speaking of WWE, Sasha Banks and Naomi were at New York Fashion Week, and they looked phenomenal. And they look so happy. They look like they're living their best lives, which I'm very happy for them. And it had been rumored, we thought that they were going to be, it was imminent, that they're almost like MJF, imminent return to wrestling. Because there were rumors, or there had been talk that they had been put back on the WWE roster. So some people thought maybe they were going to come back at Clash at the Castle. They did not. And it seems like maybe they're just kind of doing their own thing for right now, which, good for them. But Sasha was on a podcast, and I'm probably not going to say the name of it correctly, and I apologize in advance for that. It's Talk to Radio, I think. It's AHCH-TO. So I apologize if I butchered that. It was a Star Wars podcast, which is probably another reason I got that wrong, because I have never seen Star Wars and don't have any plans to. But they were talking to her. They were talking to her about her experience with The Mandalorian. And then one of the things that stood out to a lot of people was saying that she is interested. She was interested.
She's on The Mandalorian.
Right.
Sorry.
She is.
Of course.
Huh? And so she explained that she's interested in owning her IP, and IP is for intellectual property. And she wants to own the character behind the character. And she mentioned that in wrestling, that's a character that she came up with, and the writers are there to give input. And I will read the quote here that I have from Post Wrestling. And she just said, in general, she said in general life, if says she responded when asked if she's interested in creating a character that's 100% hers and not connected to anything else. She said, we always want to create characters that we can portray and to live by, but you're a character right now. I'm sure once you get off of your headset, you're someone that's completely different. So we're always portraying different characters in any given moment of our time. And for me, it's really just owning my own IP and owning the character behind the character and really defining who's the character that's playing the character. So it's really just finding yourself. But yeah, when it comes to even just wrestling, that's the character that I come up with and I portray myself. And you have writers coming in and giving a little bit more detail of what they see for it. But it's really when it comes to characters in your life, it's what you do see for your character, because only you know how you're going to play it, and only you know how you see it when you envision that character. So that seems like a really interesting comment for her, and maybe why she's not back in wrestling right now. Maybe she's wanting to make sure that when she does come back, wherever she comes back to, whether that's WWE or elsewhere, that she owns that character. So I think that's, a really interesting and kind of where her mindset is right now, and probably her mindset even before she parted ways with WWE, that this might also be, what her mindset is now coming into this. So I thought that was a really interesting. It seems like Sasha has or even Mercedes rather, she has a very particular, maybe not plans, but she has very particular wants for what she wants from a character. And it seems like that's also, and she was clear to say, in wrestling as well. So maybe not just in Hollywood and the films and the, that she's getting to do. It seems like in WWE or whatever, like in whatever wrestling promotion she ends up in, that's something that's very important to her. And I think maybe that's another reason it's taking her a little bit longer to come back, because people have been expecting her to come back any minute. And so it seems like maybe she's taking her time, deliberately taking her time and making the right decision for her.
I mean, she would have experienced at this point, having been on screen, I believe that she would have to be in some form of an actor's union now, because probably of the amount of time to continue. It's so weird how that stuff works with streaming and so forth, but so she's probably experiencing, when you do have a union, you actually do have protection of yourself, your intellectual property, and that experience, if she's got an agent or a manager of any kind, would be able to really help her
Yeah.
I think that they need to be careful with that, because especially WWE, because if you let one in, you open the door, and I think that they will be but I like, it's somebody that people like a lot, and it's somebody that people respect a lot. Yeah. And it's somebody that, I mean, you could end up with a whole bunch of non-wrestling Star Wars fans getting on her side for this one, because she's a big deal.
She is a big deal, and she keeps adding to her brand outside as Mercedes. Adding to.
I've seen everything Star Wars, so I'm literally the opposite of Sam. So.
Yeah, and I don't mean that as any shade. It's just never something I've been interested in. But it just shows, and it also kind of goes back and it shows you, because of the big, there's obviously the wrestling universe, there's the Star Wars, there's Star Trek, there's, all of these different things, and there are people within them who, I think the situation kind of comes up in all of these fandoms, really. But they will support, somebody that they like, and so I think the fans, and we've seen it with wrestling fans, how vocal they've been since Sasha, before even Sasha left, they were very vocal about the way she was booked, about things, but now that she's been away from the company, they're very vocal. They're very supportive of everything she's doing. I mean, that's how I found out she was even at New York Fashion Week, is because I saw it was a fan account had tweeted it, and it was retweeted into my timeline. So, her fans are very invested in what she does, and as well as Naomi. Her fans are also extremely, and that maybe that's kind of Naomi's take on things too. Maybe she, because as far as we know, she's not doing anything in Hollywood right now. But she may have some interest in owning her IP as well, and so maybe she's kind of using that leverage as well. I don't. So it's really interesting. And another thing, Sasha has mentioned, or Mercedes rather, has mentioned, that she's doing some other things. She specifically brought up the music space, and she's focused on being the way Post Wrestling has it, is she's focused on being somewhat of a director. And it sounds like maybe she's directing a music video as well. So it seems like she's really branching out into all of these different venues. And we've talked about that before when we've talked about her being gone, and whether we thought maybe she would head to Japan, because she's been very vocal about wanting to wrestle in Japan. Yes, Brad. Yeah. I'm not in the Star Wars fan base, but I have seen just
it can get it's the same BS. It's just a different shit. It's about Star Wars. It's about wrestling. It's about Marvel. It's about
it's about every. There's a lot of fan.
Toxic.
Don't say there's toxicity in every fan base.
The toxic fan bases of everything can just. It's the same conversation. Is what I think is so funny. Is whether you're, and I'm sure we've mentioned this a million times, but it's like whether it's politics, wrestling, Star Wars, the conversation basically goes the same dumb way.
Yeah,
I mean, it always ends up with people.
You're even seeing it now with the Little Mermaid trailer. Like that movie hasn't even come. But you see that toxicity there.
I know. Let's argue about a fantasy creature. Yeah, and I am very excited about Andor. Very excited.
Yes, I didn't want to skip over that. I just wanted to make
no, absolutely. But see, that's the thing though, is that I can exist in that space and I can have a good conversation with another member of that group of people. I mean, all my friends my sister was like, no Star Wars, never didn't. I mean, she watched By Me. I don't know how much she took from it. She had to, because we had the one VCR and I watched those movies.
That's another over 30 episode.
Yeah, there
reference. You go. The VCR.
Hey. This is how you know I'm over 30.
Yesterday.
I saw one of the original ones in the theater. So I saw Return of the Jedi in the theater. So that's the one I was sentient for. I existed on planet Earth for Return of the Jedi. Thus I was able to go see it as a small child. Oh no, see, I'm the the nerd. I am the trope nerd. I waited in line when they did the re-releases. I waited in line when they did
But
the
it's fun. That type of
prequels.
stuff is a lot of fun. So there
But
are
I
such
did it
really great, really fun things
right.
about stuff like that. And so the toxicity just in any of these fan bases, it just takes away so much. And it dominates the conversation instead of the conversation of the people who do things like that, where they experience as a collective. And that, that's what we talked about in wrestling, that there's so many things. I won't, harp on the CM Punk stuff too much, but when he first came back, like that was a collective experience for a lot of wrestling fans, which is where, and so things like that don't happen a lot in wrestling, but that was the thing that we collectively, like, even if for those of us hashtag not in Chicago, for that, we collectively experience that and that doesn't happen that much. And so when it happens in these, and in any fandom really, that have these collective experiences, like that, it's really cool, and it adds to the magic of whatever the fan base is, and it kind of for a minute makes you forget about the toxic crap that's out there.
I actually highly recommend, and I'll probably do a more in-depth, we can talk about it next week, but I don't know, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Jay the Great Fowler on Twitter. He's a big time member of the community, and he's going through some crazy life knife's edge life stuff on the regular, but he's also one of the most positive people on Twitter that I've seen on any Twitter. And they finally put together an article sort of about his story that he kind of kept everybody apprised of, and said, I making sure that this is my words and my thoughts, and didn't want the article to come out until he was satisfied with it. And it actually dropped this week, and I got part of the way through it. Highly recommend that everyone go read it, because it does actually sort of break down what we're talking about right here. And I think it is sort of a good way, getting towards the end, of talking about the fact that there's, exactly what Brad said right there. That is what the real group of people that most, the people that are hanging out here today, the people that like to hang out in the Facebook group, the people that you have in your wrestling chats that you have, that's the people that matter. And I think in the case of something like Sasha, what's nice about that is that you get that group of people from wrestling, and because she does have there is that in the Star Wars community, you have things like the 501st, which is a group of cosplayers who they have everything. They've been extras in the films. They do the job. Incredible. They dress up as Jedi Masters, everything from Jedi Masters to Stormtroopers to everything in between. They do an amazing job on their garb. But the 501st entire intent is to go around doing charitable event work, where they show up and at a charity event, a charity auction, or they go visit kids in a hospital, or they, awesome. And that is a lot of Star Wars fans. Getting all dressed up as Star Wars fans, characters that they love, and doing good in their community. And I've met a few of them because they used to come to the city that we worked in. They used to visit one of the local pods, because it's a huge organization. They do an incredible amount of charity work. But people like that, those are the people, I think, that in a case like Sasha's, because she is so well respected and people do love her, I think that a lot of people are going to go, no, she's right. And I think it's good that she was holding out, and Naomi might be smart to hold out, because it doesn't hurt to jump on those coattails once the path is started. I mean, you get in her wake, and you're someone who has a voice of your own, where you do have a popular following. You guys might be able to make a bigger difference than you think. And the whole thing is changing. So.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to the conversation about unions and wrestling. And, people have talked about, like, they need a big person like a Roman Reigns to say, we need a union or something like that. So clearly that's not exactly what Sasha's doing here, but Sasha is somebody who is big enough that can make a statement. I want to own my IP. I want this, this, and this. Naomi can now also say, I also want these things. In addition, I would like this. And, and Naomi has a unique situation where she is in she's in that family where there's Roman Reigns, there's Jay and Jimmy Uso, there's Solo Sikoa. Like, she's married into that family, and so she has a bigger. I think she has a bigger. Not backing, but I think she's big. I think she has more than she realizes. And I know she probably feels like she has to be careful not to rock the boat for somebody like a Roman Reigns, and things like that. But on the other hand, she has a voice that is powerful, and having somebody like Sasha at her side also saying these things, that is really powerful. And it's powerful as women of color, as Sasha is this Naomi is a star in her own right and should be a lot bigger in WWE and outside of WWE than she is. But then Sasha has, and like you said, she's got this additional fan base that is very large. So Sasha is in a very unique position, I think, and she's in a unique place. And I hope that they are able to make the change that they want to make, or at least for themselves, and maybe set the path for other women and other wrestlers in general behind them, that they can come in and be
Wouldn't
like,
it be great if it was ladies that got wrestling unionized?
That would be incredible.
Everyone would have to shut up forever.
They wouldn't.
You only can collectively hey, brother, you can only collective bargain because of me, all right?
Right?
Just shut up.
That's incredible. That would be incredible if that happened. I would love to see that happen.
I mean, because that's essentially what she's doing in a weird way, because by owning your own IP, you're effectively saying that because she can't be the only one allowed to do that. So if they're going to let her back in with all those rights, that's 8 billion lawsuits.
Well, and they can all, and then people can come, if she's successful in that, then other wrestlers can come to her and she can be like, this is what I did. This is the lawyer I used. This is the paperwork that I had.
Oh yeah, lawyers are always looking for a way to get themselves over as a specific.
not Mark Sterling in this case.
No, nothing else.
A real bona fide lawyer.
Real,
yeah,
not that guy.
So I'm very interested to see what Sasha and Naomi do next, and what they do in wrestling, because they could end up doing a lot of things that are powerful, not only for themselves, but other women of color in particular, just wrestling in general. It would be, I hope that they are successful in whatever it is that they want to do, because they are phenomenal and they deserve it.